How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Today, I'm back. I just got back from my honeymoon really late this morning, and I want to bring you an update on the market. I've been able to stay sort of connected throughout this, just checking Twitter, watching the news a bit, but I want to bring you some of the top news from Tesla selling to a bunch of other pieces of news that all impact the cryptocurrency market and the stock market. And I've got some good news and some not so good news. Some people are going to lose a lot of money and some people are going to make a lot of money. And I want to talk to you about that here today. If you don't mind hitting the like button and subscribe button, I appreciate that. There's a link underneath the video to BlockFi. I've been a partner of BlockFi for a very long time and I continue to work with them even through this kind of difficult time in the market. But I understand if you want to take your crypto off exchanges as well. But if you aren't doing that, I would suggest maybe going with BlockFi because they are working with FTX. They are a company that has a lot of financial backing now. So definitely check out the link underneath the video. Now let's get into the market here. We have Bitcoin up a bit over the last 7 days, up about 12%. A lot of people getting really excited over the last few days because we actually came out of extreme fear for the first time in 74 days. We're just in fear. This is the longest that I've ever seen. I believe it's the longest we've ever seen as long as the crypto and fear and greed index has been around. And a lot of cryptos are up right now. When we look at this over the last 7 days, Bitcoin's up 12%. Ethereum was up nearly 50% over the last 7 days. Just a day ago, now it's cooled down a bit, but it's still at 1,500. BNB is up 12%. Solana is up 20%. Matic is up massively over the last 7 days. Last time I checked, it was 60%. So many different cryptos are up, but now we're having a little bit of a cool off here today. We have Bitcoin falling about 7% on the day, Ethereum 6%, a lot of other cryptocurrencies 6 to 10%, and Bitcoin is really battling this 200-week moving average. We popped below it for about 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and that's the longest we've ever been below the 200-week. Now we popped above, and we're holding it as support right now. We keep on bouncing off it here today. Now, a lot of the reason that we're falling down right now, at least about $1,500 from the high just yesterday, is because Tesla sold 75% of their Bitcoin holdings in Q2. A lot of people got worried about this, especially right when it came out. We fell about $600, $700 per Bitcoin, and a lot of people were wondering why this was occurring. The main reason that they did this, and you can see the stock is not down today on this news, which is interesting. You would think a lot of people would think that they're wishy-washy. They're selling a significant portion of their Bitcoin. A lot of people thought they were going to sell it at a loss, but they are not being affected here today. A lot of people liking their earnings, and part of the reason that is, and part of the reason that Bitcoin hasn't sold off more is because of the fact that they sold this actually at a slight profit, or before they actually had a loss, and the majority or the main reason that they did this was, one, to get some more cash on their balance sheet because they are ramping up a couple different facilities and those burn a ton of money. They're not actually making a lot of money now because they have to ramp up the amount of deliveries or the amount of production in those facilities so they can increase deliveries there. So again, just burning a lot of cash right now. And second of all, they also did this to kind of make their earnings look a little bit better. They would be having a lot more of an issue with earnings per share because of the impairment loss. They actually beat on, I believe they beat on revenue, but they definitely beat on earnings as well by about 10%, maybe a little bit higher than that, because they were able to sell the majority of their Bitcoin around 28 to 29,000, as opposed to about 17,000, 18,000, which is where people thought they sold. They thought that they capitulated at the bottom, but no, they actually sold about $1 billion worth when it was worth significantly more than it is today. And they said that they're open to buying more in the future, which I think is really important because this shows that they really just did this because it fit with what they wanted for the quarter. They wanted to increase cash. They wanted to also, like I said, just make their earnings look better. I would not be surprised if they're already buying or they're going to buy here soon just to buy more as time goes on. And their facilities are also ramping up as well. So the fact is that they won't need as much cash sitting around. They already have a significant amount, almost $20 billion. A lot of people thought that we would fall much more than this if we got news of Tesla selling. And I honestly thought we would as well, right? We only fell $500, $600 right away. But the fact is, we've had so much selling and so much bad news that I think people are just kind of over it. The fact is, we've had inflation numbers hit nearly 9% in the US, much higher in other countries. We've had the Fed fighting against us, raising interest rates. We've had global war affecting our oil and energy. We've had Luna collapse and UST collapse. We had Three Arrows Capital dumping billions of dollars of Bitcoin, along with Luna as well, right? They both dumped tons of Bitcoin. We have regulation coming, which is making a lot of people fearful. We have short-term holders capitulating. The 30-day cost basis net change is very low. You can see here. So we've had a record number of people just selling off, getting out. They're worried. You can see it in people's views on YouTube, right? So many people are getting out of crypto and not paying attention to it anymore just because they've had too much. They can't handle it anymore. We also had a ton of miners dumping. 25% of Bitcoin holdings were dumped last month by public miners. And these are the ones that can raise capital pretty easily, or easier, because they have the ability to dilute shares. So if they are if they're dumping 25% of their Bitcoin, what are the private miners doing? So keep that in mind. We also had Celsius get in trouble, with a lot of people worrying about that and the fallout from that. We had so much capitulation in all these different ways, recession fears, layoff fears. We've had all this happening. So Tesla's selling a little bit just to bolster their balance sheet. I don't think is scaring anyone right now. And a lot of people are actually liking the earnings coming out of Tesla. I personally hold a lot of Tesla. I hold a lot of Bitcoin. Those are my two largest assets, and I'm pretty happy continuing to add to them. Now, a couple big things we have coming this week before we get into some really important numbers, and then I'll talk to you about the losers and the winners from the crypto market recently, and who's going to make a lot and who's going to lose a lot. So we had Tesla announce earnings yesterday. We have Snapchat announce earnings today after close. So pay attention to this, because this is really going to affect Google and Facebook. This is going to show, okay, what is the advertising agents, what are the advertising companies doing? Are a lot of people pulling back on advertising and marketing right now, or are they aggressively advertising because they know that to get more revenue, they're going to have to advertise a bit more right now, especially with the weakness of the consumer. So that's going to be interesting to watch. That's really going to affect, I think, the entire market. Now, with that in mind, we are up a little bit on the NASDAQ. Now, this is really interesting because we've had so much of a market rally for crypto and for stocks. A lot of it just because we were so sold off, but also we have had a significant number of companies, tech companies specifically, say that they were pausing hiring or even laying off. From Tesla, Google, Microsoft, so many companies are freezing hiring or laying off employees. And this, in addition to the fact that we might have inflation actually falling down, is causing a lot of people to think that the Fed is going to U-turn. We know that they can't actually continue raising rates so aggressively because it really hurts the U.S. and their ability to pay back debt. So the fact is, a lot of people are thinking that they are going to stop raising rates so aggressively and actually U-turn next year. So this is going to be really fascinating to watch, and this is, again, a lot of the reason that we're seeing a market rally. Now, we also had some interesting things come in too, some interesting pieces of news. Galaxy Digital is buying $75 million worth of Ethereum. This is coming from 21 investors, each with a minimum of $100,000 invested, with the average obviously being about $3 million or so. So a lot of people are buying Ethereum, buying crypto assets on this pump. And this is probably a reason that we're seeing a good jump in Ethereum, along with the fact that we had about 200,000 Ethereum taken off exchanges just yesterday. So this is fascinating to watch. A lot of money is coming back into crypto, as you can see by the pumps that we've seen over the last week. Now, large investors are still, the institutional investors are still a bit cautious. You can see that we do have some inflows. This is the weekly funds report, but a lot of this is going into just the short Bitcoin. You can see that, and some money still flowing out of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, with that being said, we do have one last piece of good news before I will hit on the winners, the losers, and a really interesting graph here. UFC fighter will receive full salary in Bitcoin, shrugs off crypto market volatility. And she's basically saying It takes an average of 10 to 15 years for an individual to obtain a black belt in Brazil in Jiu-Jitsu. So my time preference here is just as long, if not longer. Everything else is just noise to me, and the lower the price, the more Bitcoin I can secure for the future, which is fascinating. I think that's fantastic, and this person really seems like they get it, right? The fact is, you have to have a long time preference, and what she said there at the end, right? The lower the price, the better will be in the end. So with that in mind, I want to show you this graph. It's kind of an eyesore, but you can see at the bottom the price of Bitcoin. And then we have the multiples that you get if Bitcoin hits gold's market cap. So a lot of people think Bitcoin's going to hit 500,000, 600,000, $1 million. This is assuming we get to about 600,000, the same market cap as gold. Like I said, if you buy at 69,000 and you hold until Bitcoin hits gold's market cap, you get about an 8 to 9x. If you were to buy at 45,000 and you hold until gold's market cap, you get about 13x. And as you can see, as time goes on, as the price goes down, we get exponential returns. And keep in mind, this is a $7,000 change here compared to just about a $2,000 change here. So we have Bitcoin falling down a lot less, but yet their returns are exponential. So if you're buying right now and you hold to gold's market cap, you'll get about 24x. If we fall back down to just 20,000, which is not a huge drop, right? You would be able to get about a 30x. So that just shows that as the price goes down, the returns get exponential. Imagine if I had just gone from 70,000 to 65 to 60, it would be even a greater slope there. So that's why you want to buy Bitcoin now, because as prices go down, the return gets exponentially better. Now, of course, you always have to do your own research. I am still dollar cost averaging. I think that's the best way to go forward with it, just because you never know when there are going to be big dips. You never know when there are going to be big opportunities outside of crypto or stocks to be able to invest in some kind of business. So that's why I continue to dollar cost average, fully knowing that if I just were to buy a bunch of Bitcoin right now, the fact is we could go and test all-time highs again in the next year or two, and now would probably be a pretty good time to invest, because if we tested all-time highs, that would be about a 3x. And with a lot of money being dumped into the market, if I dumped a lot of money into the market, that'd be a great return. But like I said, I have to have some kind of security as well with my job, and also just having the ability to invest in other ways. Who are the big winners? Who are the big losers? And one piece of Matic news as well. So big losers here, short-term holders that are capitulating, short-term holders that bought at 64,000, 69,000, 50,000, 40,000, probably bought all the way down and then sold, capitulated at 18,000, right? When there's the most fear in the market, when everyone's saying, hey, we're going to fall back to 10,000 or 5,000, right? So many people are thinking, oh, well, if I do that, at least I can buy back my old crypto for much cheaper. I can buy 3 or 4 times as much. So I'm just going to sell at 17, 18,000. Boom, they are out. And now we've rebounded about 20 to 30%. A lot of altcoins going up even more than that. So short-term holders that capitulated are losers. They will lose a lot of money in the end and miss out on a lot of the gains. Now, some may be able to buy back in cheaper, but that is a difficult game to play. Another group of people that are winners are the people that are dollar cost averaging, buying, accumulating, have strong streams of income, and are just able to continue to dollar cost average and think about things rationally in the market, right? If you're buying at 70,000 or 50,000, why aren't you buying now? That's the question. So many people that stay in the market are going to be the winners long term. So that's just what you have to pay attention to. Those are the big pieces of news. We do have one big piece of Matic news. They announced a giant leap forward for Ethereum scaling and ZK innovation. They are introducing Polygon ZK EVM, the first EVM equivalent ZK layer 2. So this is big news. This is allowing everyone to be able to use anything that was on Ethereum. So this means any smart contract or dev tool that you can use on Ethereum can be used on Polygon ZK EVM period, just like Ethereum, but with groundbreaking scaling power of ZK technology. This is fantastic because even when the market's slow, Ethereum fees are still so much higher than Polygon fees, and you just can't run as many transactions through it. So the fact is Polygon is innovating in a way that Ethereum just hasn't been able to recently, and they do help Ethereum as well. So the fact is, Polygon is up significantly over the last couple weeks, and it bottomed out around 30 to 40 cents, up about 200% from the bottom. So great news for Polygon, great news for Polygon holders. Let me know your thoughts on all this underneath the video. Thank you so much. Again, you can check out the links underneath the video if you want to support the channel. If not, please just hit subscribe and the like button. I appreciate that too. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.